morning, everybody, and welcome to our first Canvas and Google Meet updates for September and October for grades 3-5. We have today with us the digital teaching and learning team, Stephanie Burton, Cole Wilkins, and Lisa Thoman. And today we're going to be giving you those updates specifically for the Canvas Learning Management System and Google Meet. Before we get started, we are going to go ahead and put in the chat box the attendance link for today. And just remember that this is recorded and you can use the same link that you came into this YouTube live stream using that same link to be able to listen again to the Canvas updates and Google Meet updates. On the screen in front of you right now is that actual attendance form. And again, it is located in the chat. The link is there for you, and we'll periodically put it in the chat feature between now and the next 45 minutes. In a few minutes, Stephanie will start with some of our Canvas updates.
Morning, guys. I'm going to give you a minute or so to get your attendance completed, and we're going to transition over into Canvas. And if you actually have your Canvas up, that would be awesome, so you can follow along and actually make some of the changes that we have pushed down from the admin level. And technically, when updates occur, you may hear about them either at the same time or after we do, but just know we are aware of them. We try not to push them out until we've either offered some type of training or we give you the option of turning it on or off. We don't try to push something out where you are not aware of a change such as the two we're going to talk about first thing this morning. So I see a lot of familiar names in the chat box. We are glad to have you on a Friday morning. So we'll go ahead and get started with Canvas. I'm going to talk about Canvas, a few things. Then Lisa is going to transition and show you a couple of things. And then we'll end with Cole giving you some Google Meet updates. And we will call it a day after that for our 3-5 Canvas and Google Meet updates. So like Lisa said, this does take the place of September and October. So what you're fixing to see, the first one we're going to talk about today is called the new student assignment enhancements. So when we talk about that, that's technically pushed out. It was released on October the 17th at the admin level, where we had to we could technically turn it on at our level, so we did. But here's the thing, we did not turn it on so that it automatically changed for your students. One being that it is the end of the 9 weeks. We didn't want that look, the interface to look different for your students trying to submit assignments, as well as we wanted to make sure that you guys knew what that looked like. And so with the new student enhancements, it is a choice for you to turn on. So what we're going to do is show you what that looks like on the side of your course. So for every course, you would technically have to turn this on. Now, I know for some teachers are probably saying, oh goodness, another change. But this change is going to benefit your students. It is an enhancement where they don't have to, everything flows. So it's not where they have to like try to go back and find that submit tab at the top. So we're going to take you through that. You can turn it on inside of one of your courses to see what that looks like. But just remember one thing, your students do not know what this looks like. So you technically are going to have to take a little bit of time either recording and pushing that out to them or actually showing them step by step what the new interface looks like. So if you are in one of your courses, we'd like for you to go to the settings tab underneath your navigation. And in this area, you have what's called your feature options. So there's a tab for feature options. Now, a couple of things we already have turned on here. This is the exact location where you should have gone to post grades to SIS, your student information system. So that one's probably toggled on for you. A couple of others we want you to turn on is we're going to start with the one at the bottom, the assignment enhancements for students. So that would be toggled off for you with an X. We want you to turn it on so that it is green. That then switches over the old way of how they submit into the new way. The other two things we want you to turn on so that we can train you on those are the about middle ways up, you'll see RCE enhancements. We want you to toggle that on. RCE enhancements is technically your rich content editor. That was pushed out at the admin level in September. We hadn't had a chance to train you on that, but that is where your content look will interface for that will change as well. The other thing we want you to turn on is right above the last one where it says RCE autosave. That is your rich content editor that auto saves what you are working on in that content editor area. So you want to turn those on. So once you have those toggled on, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the old way that students normally submit. So students normally submit by going in, you create the assignment, they click on the assignment either through their module or the to-do list, which is located on the right-hand side of the homepage when they log into the course. They would then click on the Submit Assignment button over on the upper right-hand corner. And what that does is it would take the student to the submit assignment interface. So it technically took them where they could actually see what options they had to turn something in. Maybe you had them going in and submitting it as a file upload, or you had it as a text box, or it was an online upload, such as you had them doing a URL or a website URL, but that is exactly where they would see that. They would complete the assignment. And for example, if it was a file upload for them, I know most of you may not be aware of this, but in the normal way to submit, students do have the opportunity to load 2 files at a time. So what that means is most teachers were thinking they could load one file and then they would have to turn around and do another one. They can technically load 2 files on the old method there, and they'll be able to load multiple files as well on the new one. But this is your choice, of course, to keep it on the old method or transition over to the new. And what technically happened after the students would go in, they would submit once they were finished and uploaded properly. They would click the Submit Assignment tab in the upper right-hand corner. Now, with those 2 files, I will say this part. When they do load 2 files at a time, you technically do have the capability inside of SpeedGrader to transition between the 2 files for that student as well. Now, that was the old method of submitting. Now, we want to take you into the new experience of what that looks like. And for our younger kids, this is going to be a whole lot easier for them as well. So for our students, they would come over to the right-hand side. This is the new way now. They'll come over to the right-hand side, and they can either go to their module or they can click the to-do list. And whatever assignment they have there on the right, they will select it. So for us, we have author's purpose that's due. So we as a student would open up that, and you can always see this look through the student view. So if you wanted to see the look, you can see it through student view. And that's exactly how you would make your recording for your students. Now you'll notice right off the bat it looks different. They have the date that it's due at the top. They have unlimited attempts on this assignment, so they would already know that. But what it does show is what attempt they're technically on, but they have something new here. They have a status bar. So it starts with available and upload. So we're in the transition part of available and upload. Those are green. Anything grayed out will technically mean that it has not reached that part in the process yet. We're not at that part of the status. So as we scroll down to the details part, you'll notice that we can minimize or collapse that as well. But as we scroll down into the details, you will notice that the progress bar will transition and it will minimize itself to the right as we begin to look at the process as we scroll down. So you see that over on the far right. So we still know that we are in the available mode because that's listed there. The details area, guys, is just simply what you created the assignment. So in this assignment, when we went into assignments and we created it, we told them what we wanted to do in the text, rich text editor. We actually put a video in there that we wanted them to read, but we also told them to click done in a text box area. That's just an example of what they would do to submit the assignment. Now, as we move down in transition, we switch this over to file upload because we wanted you to see this option. So underneath, see how everything flows to the bottom. So now at this point, if it was a text box, your students would write in the option, they would click done or submit at that point. Now, because we chose a file upload, we wanted you to see the options here. There is no submission button at the top right on this. You'll notice there's no submission button, okay? So what they technically would do is they will flow to the bottom and they'll begin to see their options there. Now, because this is a file upload, they will click more options because more options would mean things like if I wanted them to, most of you guys use the Google Assignments LTI or the Google Drive. The Google Apps is there as well. Say it's a slide, a doc that you want them to upload, but they have those options there. And technically what they would do is drag and drop. So yes, they do have a drag and drop now in this area. They don't have to click a lot of buttons. Technically, they go find their file like they always do on the computer, on the drive, wherever they need to, and they would drag and drop it into this area. Now, what happens at this point is they would then click on submit in the lower right corner. It's a red button. So no longer are they going to search back up at the top for that submit assignment button. It just all flows downward and it's all there together now. So what happens that's good about this too is no longer do students have to go to another area to view what they have submitted, because used to what they would do in the old submission is once they submitted it, they would then have to go to submission details for that assignment in the upper right hand corner, and they would have to click on view feedback. That's the old method. Now what happens is once they submit, they can see their document. And when the teacher makes the annotations or the comments in SpeedGrader, they will naturally see it at this point. They will be able to see the actual file itself. Okay. Now let's talk about the limitations, because we want to talk about what does not change inside of here. Now I told you in the beginning that this was for assignments, but you notice that there are different types of assignments. This change in interface does not affect if you select no submission assignments. So if I say no submission, this does not change. It just keeps the old way. If you select on paper as an option, it does not use this interface. If you are to do group assignments, currently those do not use this interface. So that means it would just revert back to the old method. So if it is not supported, you don't have to go and turn something off, okay? It just transitions to the old method. And let's talk about your quizzes and discussions. They remain the same. Quizzes and discussions remain the same. This new interface does not affect new quizzes. Students still submit the same way that they have in the past. This is only for the assignments interface. So what does this support? This supports any submissions of online or external tools, such as my Google LTI 1.3, media recordings, if you have them to do audio or video, my text entry, if I select that, anything that's done online, your website URLs, any type of file uploads, this new interface does support, okay? So before we transition from this, I just want to remind you that in training your students, you're going to need to demonstrate this live for them on how to add the assignment in this area if you turn this on. Do a live recording of it in the student view so that you can post that inside of your course. And make sure to include that you can submit assignments again, okay? You can submit assignments again. That would be located where we had the submit button. There would be a new attempt in that area to go in and actually submit something new. It's in the upper right-hand corner of your progress bar. Now, that is called the student assignment enhancements. So now what we want to transition over to is the other update, which is for you as the teacher, the rich content editor enhancements. So we're going to show you what this looks like. You should have turned that on in the background of settings. Let me remind you again where that's located. Settings, feature options, toggle on. Now, we made this optional for you as well. We didn't just push it out because the toolbar in the assignment will change. So we're going to go into the edit mode so you can see what that now looks like. You automatically know that that looks different than the old method, the old interface. So that's why we made it optional for you. So when you get ready to turn it on, just know that there are more enhancements here to help you and support you. But there's a different look to some of the icons and where the location of the apps are, okay? So we're going to talk about this area right here, which is called our content building tool. This is where we're able to go in and build our content. And you should be familiar with this area if you've built assignments. But your look of the old interface will look different than this one. So let's talk about some of the new additions here in this area. So underneath your insert button, you will automatically know that there's some areas in there where you can actually insert some things. Underneath your format tab, you have the area and the nice capability now of changing your font. In the past, that's not been as easy or had as many options for fonts as you do now. So now you can actually change those. You do have word count at the bottom as well. You have your HTML that's located there beside of your word count. So if you wanted to embed through HTML, make some changes to that, you have that capability at the bottom. Those are your little arrows. Right beside of that, you have the full screen where you can technically transition to full screen if you want to. And then you have your three dots where you can technically go in and grab a hold. It's kind of like a handlebar. So if I wanted to expand the text editor area, I have that capability of expanding it now. Now let's talk about a few changes up in the top toolbar. You're going to love this as a teacher. It's going to be a little bit new to you, but everything's located here. We're going to start with the link icon. In the past, you've only been able to see external links in this area or just the link itself. External links, when you click that, that technically means I'm going to bring something in from the outside. So I want, let's say, for instance, Study Island in here. I would type Study Island in. I would go and copy and paste that link, and I would save it in that area, okay? That technically brings in your external link. Underneath the next area, you have what is called the course links. Now, your course links are, this is a new one for you. You can now go in to anywhere in your course and you have the capability of locating something and linking it back. So I can link something in this assignment to something inside of my course itself. So if I had documents loaded, if I had previous assignments, if I had assignments in another area, I can link it here. You're going to love this as the teacher. It gives more flow, it gives more capability than all those clicks that you're having to do. So as we transition over, guys, you have your image icon. That's where you technically upload your image. You can now pull your course images over from right here, or your user images. And then beside of that, you of course have your media. This is where you can go in and record your media, your course media. Over beside of media, you have your documents. Now, this is awesome right here. This is where you can go pull your documents straight from where you need them, like course documents. Say you had something somewhere else. This is another area where you can go pull your documents in, not just your links, but your documents themselves. So say I was doing something on the periodic table or ecosystems and I needed to pull it from another area, I can pull that in. Transition over. Everybody should know what that icon is. That's our YouTube icon. That is just where you can embed. And technically what we did was we looked up author's purpose here in YouTube and we embedded it right into our assignment. Beside of that, you should know that icon as well too. That is your drive icon. That is where if you want to locate something from your drive. Now, what does look different beside of your drive is the icon that looks like a plug-in. That used to be a V. Let me repeat that. That used to be a V. So that is a change for external tools. Used to, that is where you would go to find your Google Meet if you wanted to incorporate it straight into your assignment. You can click view all there. You will still see your Google Meet, but the icon has changed. It is no longer a V, it is a plugin. The last transition or little icon we're going to look at is the three dots on the end, and there's your Google Meet. The three dots on the end, that technically has where you can incorporate a table. You can now add your math equations in to this area, and then you have your icon for your little cloud, which is your embed icon, if you wanted to embed something inside of your assignment, okay? Very good updates inside of the rich content editor. Now let's talk about beside of your counting of your words. You have what is called accessibility. Now we've talked to you guys before in some past meetings about accessibility and meeting ADA requirements, okay? So in order to check any editing page to see if I'm meeting those ADA requirements, I select the circle with the little person inside of it, which will automatically do a check of that page for me. And if there are issues inside of there, then you technically have the capability of fixing them and changing them. A lot of the issues that teachers are having is they're not putting the text with the image that's displayed there. So a lot of times the screen reader cannot read it. So if you have that capability, make sure you're adding that alternate text in there for your actual images that you're putting in. We will say that if you're building tables usually are problematic whenever you're trying to meet ADA requirements. And we're going to do some more on how to fix things inside a little bit later on design. We're going to push those out to you. I'm going to let Lisa talk for a few minutes on the assistance help validating links and a few things in grades and assignments, and I'll be back.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to point out a few things to help ease transitions as we go through different areas. Up here on the top right-hand corner, you'll see an arrow with a line to it. I'm going to go ahead and press that icon so you can see what happens. It's an actual assistance or help tab per page that you land on. So the icon is at the top right-hand corner. It is an arrow with a line, and this jump out or pop out box comes out. And since I'm on the home page, it is going to tell me things dealing with the home page. So if I transition to the modules area, pages, grade sync, and others, it will then do the same thing. That icon will be at the top right-hand corner, and then that would be some helpful topics and assistance to help you as you go from one area to another inside Canvas. Another great tool that we have for you is validating your links. So we all have links that we place inside our different assignments and pages and such. And on the settings area at the bottom left, the blue words, you know, and you see something that's familiar, the feature options that we were just on. Over to the right, there are some buttons. And at the bottom button, you'll see the words validate links in content. When you see the area called validate links in content, it's going to validate all your URL links that you have inside this course. By clicking on those words, a new screen will appear, and it's called the Course Link Validator. This Course Link Validator has what is called a Restart Link Validation button. It is blue, and it will go through page by page and all your pages in this particular course, as well as show links to unpublished content. It could be stuff that you haven't gotten to yet or stuff that you've unpublished. It will also check those links. And then below there, it will tell you the links that need to be fixed. Really good stuff there. I'm going to jump now over on the left-hand side to the words grades in blue. And in here, this is just a formatting tool that is really useful for your students as well as yourself. Here you see your list of students, and of course you see your assignment sitting here. I'm going to scroll all the way to the end where it says total. When scrolling all the way to the end and looking for the words total, you'll have 3 dots that sit in that column area. Okay, I'm going to click on the 3 dots in the area of total, and I have the option to move to front. This move to front button or area is going to take and pick up this column and place it next to the student name. Watch what happens. Move to front, and now next to the student name is the actual grade for that student that they can then see it. It's right there for them, and it's right in the beginning for them. And then lastly, I'm going to move over to the assignments tab. So to get there from this point, I'm going to hit my 3 lines up at the top, scroll down and look for the words assignments in blue. This all looks oh so familiar from doing grades for quarter 1. But there are 3 dots next to the blue button called plus assignment is the most important. When I click on those 3 dots right there, I'm looking for the pencil that says edit assignment dates. When you click on the words edit assignment dates, you're going to start to see a list of all your assignments, the due dates, available from, and available until. This gives you the opportunity to go into each of your assignments and change dates in a bulk type of form instead of going into your individual assignments. This is also time saving for you as a teacher, which is really useful. And at the end, you're going to make sure you click this blue save button. So again, you'll go over into each of your assignments. You'll get a pop-out window for a calendar. You can change the dates for multiple assignments at once, and then make sure you click that blue save button. Stephanie, back to you.
Okay, a couple more things that we want to talk about. We have ended our first reporting term of Q1. So the syncing, we had some issues with that. We'll continue to work with the syncing process to make sure that transitions over. Guys, the syncing is going to help you in the end with the ability to push over that stuff and not have to type manually all of it in the Power School gradebook like you're used to. But we do want to talk about a couple of things that you need to be aware of, because this technically does always happen every year. We want you to know what to do so that when you start transitioning kids, let's say, for instance, we go into a different plan where we have a hybrid part, and some students are transitioning from a different course or something like that. But I want to make sure that you understand a couple of things. Your courses that push from Power School are controlled by Power School. So what does that mean? Just like your grade book was. So anytime something is changed, whether it be a dot in the name of it, if it's changed in Power School, a slash, an S, let's say I'm going to change something from a regular class to honors class or something like that if we were in high school, that technically will create a new course in Canvas. So what happens at that point is when Power School changes those things, the new course will take that teacher and the enrollments and move them to the new course, because that's what Power School told them to do. However, it's going to appear that the teacher's courses and grades are gone, but technically they're still there. We'll have to find those things. But here's what you should take note of. If you know that this is going to happen, if you know that a student is going to stay with you but transition from your first period to your second period, or they're going to transition to another course that you have, you are going to need to do some pre-planning. Pre-planning means that you want to capture the URLs of the current courses that you have. That means that you want to open up that course just like Lisa has it there on your screen, and you want to just copy that URL that's at the top, and you want to paste that somewhere. Maybe it's on a Google Doc, maybe it's on a Google Keep, just so you have it. Why? Because you can always pull it back up if you have the URL to it. Now, there's ways we can go in and try to locate it, but understand, if you have the URL, we can always go directly and try to locate that particular course itself inside of Canvas, okay? Now, let me tell you this about Power School. In Power School, there is a help button in the upper right-hand corner beside your name. It has a question mark there. There is a document for copying grades from one section to another for students. So if a student is going to move from your first period to your second period, you can copy those grades and move them over. If they are moving from one teacher to the other, you can export those grades and share those grades with the other teacher. Okay? So that's the way to technically do that. You have that help icon with that document in there to show you how to take that student if they are moving between your sections and copy the grades, as well as how to export it and share with other teachers. Couple of last things. Over on your navigation bar, we have added Britannica School. So you can click that, and there is an abundance of resources inside of there to support you in your grade levels. We pushed that out last week. And this is what you should get when you click on it. And you have your elementary, your middle. This keeps you from having to log into NCYZO. So now you can go straight to Britannica School here for your resources that you have. I want to show you a couple of other things before I transition over to Cole. Lisa, we're going to open up wideopenschool.org. This is a link for you, which is part of Common Sense Media, which we use a lot for digital citizenship. These are awesome daily plans at the bottom. So if I'm on grades 3, 5, as I scroll down, if I wanted to work on something that's dealing with math, then I technically could scroll down to the area after I've selected my grade level. I would then click and go to that math, which is my first selection there. I'm waiting on the system to catch up with me. So this, if I technically wanted to use that math lesson, I would open that math lesson up. We're just going to show you quickly what this actually looks like. So inside of here, you should have some, this takes you to NASA, and you have a game that they technically could play based on that. This is a STEM resource for you to actually use some STEM resources inside of your math class. But take some time and look at this resource. A lot of good activities and lesson plans inside of there. The other one we want to show you is some interactive slides that you technically can make a copy of on your own. These links are available to you inside of the recording. We can also throw them inside of the chat for you to grab a hold of. But these are interactive slides for any content area. So if you wanted to use one of the templates there that's that looks like the life cycle, insects, can't really see the page. So I would select that actual slide there that I wanted to use. Lisa, can you click on the slide?
I did. It's coming up. It's saying to make a copy.
Okay. So at this point, what happens is for every template that you want to use inside of this website, you can make your own copy of it, which then technically goes to your drive. So those are some templates for you to use, as well as some activities. The last thing we're going to show you is called WebPaint Chrome extension. The WebPaint Chrome extension was pushed out across the district. So where will you find that as the teacher? Go up to your address bar. Over to the far right, you will see an icon that looks like a puzzle piece. When you click on the puzzle piece, you will scroll down until you find WebPaint. WebPaint gives you the capability of writing over your Chrome apps. You can write over your slides, your docs, write over any websites that you have. So we have a what technically comes out once you select WebPaint is your tools bar that you have there, all of those capabilities, but you then transition over to your Google Slides, which your bar would be there. Then you have the capability of going in and building what you want to, writing on it, whatever you need to do with that WebPaint extension. But a really good Chrome extension we pushed out across the district. That again is in your Chrome browser area. Over to the far right, you will see a puzzle piece. Click on the puzzle piece and scroll down until you find WebPaint Chrome extension. And you do have those capabilities to utilize those. I'm going to turn it over to Cole, but I am going to put those links for those two sites that we just talked about for the activities with Common Sense Media and the templates for you to make copies of in the chat. Cole?
Good morning, everybody. So I'm just going to very briefly talk about some new features that have come to the Google Meet platform. Google Meet is in a rapid state of evolving since everyone has transitioned to a remote learning environment. I'd say every week something has changed, something has moved, something looks a little different. They've been playing catch up to get a lot of these great requested features into Google Meet, and a lot of those have popped in over the past few weeks, and we're going to talk about some of them today. But just to give you a heads up, we are now in a rapid release rollout time frame with our Google domain. So any new features they release, we're going to be some of the first people to experience them as soon as they're launched to customers. And actually, we have one thing that even puts us ahead of the game from there is we applied and were accepted into a Google Meet early access program. So if there are any Google Meet new features, we're even going to get access to them even sooner than the standard customer would. Um, as you might have been familiar, breakout rooms, popped up previously. The raise hand feature, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, popped up just a week or so ago. And officially, those haven't been released, I think, to consumers yet, but they're well on their way to being released. So there are a few more features that Google is still working on that we should hopefully be able to experience in the very near future. But they have caught up to with a lot of requested features. So the first thing I want to talk about is the dial-in option. This is something we've had for a long time, but we have had to disable it at a few schools that requested it. If you may have noticed previously, when you create a Google Meet, and for many schools it is still turned on, when you create a Google Meet, it automatically creates a dial-in option. And if Lisa will click on the meeting details section, yeah, in the lower left, you'll see it pop up here in just a second. You'll see there's automatically a phone number there to where anyone in the world could call that phone number. We had some issues with students just basically abusing it to disrupt meetings, just calling in and mischief. So we did disable that at a few schools that requested it, and we can always disable it at some other additional schools if it becomes an issue with a wider audience. So when we turn that feature off, when you create new Google Meets, the dial-in option is no longer there. It forces the students to use the web browser or the mobile app to communicate. They cannot dial in with a phone. The biggest caveat with that is teachers have to create new meetings with new meeting links. If you were still using a previously created Google Meet before the dial-in option was disabled, that Google Meet and that dial-in phone number will still be present and it will still work. So if you had created a recurring meeting that recurred every day at this certain time or every other day at this certain time, you have to stop using that Meet and just create a new Google Meet and share it with your students. And that dial-in option will disappear if you were at one of these schools that requested it to be disabled. If you, like I said, if it's still currently active at your school and you want it to be disabled, just go through your administration and have them contact us, and we can definitely take care of that for you. So some of the other new features that have just recently popped up over the past few weeks is noise cancellation. So under the three dots in the lower right hand corner, and if you go into settings at the bottom, under audio, you're going to see noise cancellation there in the center. That was never there previously. So you can turn that on to help cut down on background noise if you have a lot of issues with sound. Could be a noisy, air conditioner in the background. Could be typing if you're doing a lot of typing while you're teaching. Could be doors opening and closing. Could be construction outside. The one thing I will tell you is that if you do anything with music, so if you're listening to music, playing a musical instrument, make sure that you have that turned off because it could interfere with that. And you definitely don't want that to happen. Now, the other thing to remember with noise cancellation is it will not affect a human voice. So if you have a TV on in the background or if you're in a room with many other people, you're still going to be able to hear those extra voices, and it might be very distracting to your students. So just mute your television or try to be in a room, that doesn't have a whole lot going on in it because that background human voice is still going to be picked up even with noise cancellation on. So the other features we're going to talk about where here are host controls. So the quick access feature. And you can get to this several different ways, and we'll show you a couple of other different ways later, but while we're in this interface, we're going to talk about it. So when it's turned off, only people invited can join without asking. So if you turn that off, then basically anybody that's not already invited to that meeting has to ask to be join that meeting. They can't join anonymously, and a host can kick anybody out. So if you do have a student that is in and causing a distraction and will not behave, you can kick that student out and they can't rejoin. Now, if you kick someone out by accident, the only way you can get them back in is to go into the people option and the plus button and to re-add that person, and we'll do that in a minute. But that will have to rejoin the new link. Let's head back to that same screen we were just at there, Lisa, for just a second. So we're going back to settings and under host controls. So this is where you can also access the share the screen and chat messages. You can turn these on or off. If you don't want students sharing their screen, maybe inappropriate content. If you don't want the kids chatting, you can do it there as well. And of course, you can always adjust your audio video settings, but we're not going to play with that right now. So let's jump over to the blue shield, Lisa, in the lower left-hand corner. Now only the host and moderator will see this blue shield, and this is just another meeting safety section, and many of those same features we just talked about are also here. They try to give you several ways to do this. So as you see, you can turn on or off the ability to share the screen or chat, and also to turn off that quick access feature. And there's a shortcut there to get to the additional all host settings. And there's also a report abuse section. So if you have someone that's being very disruptive, you can potentially report that to Google, for whatever that may be as well. So now let's go back to the three dots in the lower left real quick. And let's talk about captioning. Captioning used to be in the main menu bar at the bottom, but they've moved it into the three dots. As I talk about, this Google Meet product is still constantly evolving. So let's just go ahead and click turn on captions for just a second, Lisa. And you'll see a box that will pop up. We may not be able to see that box on our end, but it would show in where Lisa could see it, but you'll see down at the bottom, it's now captioning. It presents you with an option to select your language. Now, currently, the only language that is available is English. The fact that it is allowing you to select an option for languages and then telling you that would imply to me that they're building in future support for additional languages in the future. Previously, when you turned on captions, it was just simply on or off. There was no additional content, additional thing to select. They're starting to go in and modify that to give you the option to select something else. It's just right now English is the only option, but it looks to me like hopefully they're going to be adding some other language support soon. So if you have someone that needs captioning in a different language, that it would be there. Now, please remember, captioning do not show up in recordings. If you're recording your Google Meets, which we highly would recommend with your students, captioning is not there. So, and this is also a user preference. So just because you turn on captioning doesn't mean anyone else will see it. That's just something that's a preference the user can enable or disable if they please. Just remember, it doesn't show up in a recording. All right. So we've kind of already hit on this feature, but again, if I block someone, they can't come back into the meeting. If someone knocks twice and I reject them, they can't keep knocking to disrupt the meeting. We've already talked about some additional host and moderator controls. You will notice the whiteboard feature is there. We can just click that, talk about that for a second at the very top. That creates a built-in whiteboard, and you can choose to start a new one or select a previous one if you have. It's going to create a whiteboard, and you can see whoever's in the meeting. You can say what you want them to do, whether you want it to view it or share them and give them editor access where they can, and it puts a link in the chat, which is just what's popped up. Let me go into here. Let me scoot this over. All right, let's see if that'll be a little easier for us to see. Okay, so now the whiteboard, we're not going to spend a whole great detail in there. It's kind of self-explanatory, but if you have not explored the whiteboard, please do. Breakout rooms. Let's go to the activity section in the top right. So your activity section in the top right. Yep. Oops, excuse me. Let me go back. So this is where, again, only the moderator can see this. This is where you see breakout rooms. So breakout rooms, you can put people into small groups. So if you want to have small group instruction, you can, or go in and set a, something that they can discuss at a later. This is where you do that. You can shuffle them around. You can drag and drop, move them as you please. You can have up to 100 breakout rooms if you so please in there. It will automatically create a few for you. You can give them names as well if you want to customize them for certain groups or something like that. Just keep in mind, again, if you're recording a meeting, breakout rooms are not recorded. You as the host and moderator can only be present in one breakout room at a time. So you can be in the main room or you can jump back and forth. Just keep that in mind that if you're got students in a breakout room, they're not supervised if you're not there. And if you're recording, it's not being recorded either. So we're going to exit out of that, but just look, there are polls and Q&A that you've probably already seen and played around with. So those are very handy features. We don't have time to really go in depth with them right now. So we're going to exit out of that. I do want to briefly talk about the hand raise feature down at the bottom. This is the newest feature that was just enabled. So you'll notice that basically it puts a little icon to let someone know who has raised their hand. The meeting moderator can see a list of all people that have raised their hands and what order they were raised in. You can also lower the hands individually or lower all hands at once. So if many hands are up and you say, okay, we're going to start over, and you lower everybody's hands, it's a great feature for kids that want to, ask a question but not disrupt the class. Now, the last thing I'm going to briefly talk about is attendance tracking report. And I'm going to switch over and show this. So this should pop up here in just a second. When the host or moderator ends a meeting, this is what you're going to see. You're going to get an email from Google. That email from Google is going to be a CSV file that you can open up in Excel or Google Sheets. And it's going to give a list of everyone who was present in the meeting with their email address, their name, the duration they were present, the time they joined, and the time they exited that meeting. This isn't a great attendance tracking tool. This is basically built in now to Google Meets. If you're not seeing this or not receiving it, make sure that you don't have, again, any unofficial third-party extensions that might be interfering, because a lot of these features are so brand new. People are using third-party extensions to leverage some of this content. And if you're using an unofficial third-party extension, it may be interfering with now the official supported way that this works. So if you're not getting these reports, just please make sure you disable all those old features and see if you start to get this. But basically, this is an official way how you can track who was present and how long they were present during the meeting. So that's just kind of a very brief overview of the Google Meet product. Again, it's constantly changing and evolving. We're still waiting on a few new features to show up. The blur background was recently enabled a few weeks ago. The replace background feature should show up soon. And there are still a couple of more features they have promised us that hadn't quite made it here yet, but hopefully they will be very soon. And that's all I have for us today.
Guys, we hope that you enjoyed the updates and with Google Meet as well as Canvas. We know it is a lot. So you can always go back to the same link that your principal sent to you. This is called a Google live stream or a YouTube live stream, which means it is recorded. And that same link will grant you access to the recording. And you're able to go back and, do this step by step. And it is hard to get everything in with everything we have coming down the pike. That's why we did say it is a lot, but it's also some good things that is going to assist you and your students. You just have to make decisions of whether you want to use it or not. And we just found that we wanted to support you and supply you with updates instead of just pushing things out and never knowing about it. Because remember, even though you see things on YouTube, on Facebook, on all this social media, that does not mean that it is, centralized for our district. So the stuff coming from us is really geared toward PSRC. So we do thank you, and we thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, just let us know. Y'all have a great Friday.